Welcome to this memorial service for Brahim Boga. My name is Mike Wilkins. I'm good friends with Carl and Hannah, and worked with Carl and I worked together for over 20 years. I was able to experience some of Brahim and Rebecca's hospitality over the years. Mostly knew Brahim through Hannah's stories, though, that made us laugh. We've gathered to pay tribute to the life and memory of Brahim. I count it as a privilege to come to be able to help lead this service with you in your grief and your loss. By your presence here, each of you are giving an indication of the fact that you have a special relationship with Brahim or the family, and you grieve losing him. Brahim lived a long and impressive life, starting as an immigrant with very little and building a family and a successful business. His life is something to be celebrated, and there is much to be thankful for. But as his body gave up on him over the past years, those of you close to him may have felt that you were losing him bit by bit. That said, the grief that you feel now is different and so much greater than the grief for that those incremental losses that you've already experienced. So this service is a service of thankfulness as well as a service of loss and grief too. I think that we as individuals remember and grieve our loss, but we as a community also corporately remember and grieve because Brahim was an important part of this community. So tears and grief have a place here because our lives are poor for his loss. But laughter and stories also have a place as we are thankful for Brahim's life and his legacy. I have a reading about pausing at a time of loss. We have come to this place of parting. The journey here has come to an end. Here we are met and hold the moment together, vivid with memory and recollection. Here too we pause in our life. Together we are here. See, we have come to this place. We mark the ending of this life for Brahim, and we hold the moment together. Brahim, may peace be upon you. May peace be with all who attend you here, and with each whose life has journeyed alongside your own. Whatever our journey has been, this is a time of stillness and a place for letting go. Peace at this parting and on this new beginning. Let's pray. Evening comes when you call, and all nature listens to you, because you hold it all. And now you hold us. Blessed are you, O God, King of the universe. At your word, night falls. In your wisdom, you open heaven's gates. You set the stars in the vault of heaven. You created night and day. Blessed are you, O God, at whose word night falls. All nature listens to you, because you hold it all, and now you hold us. We're going to have a few people come and share some memories. First Hannah, then Carl, then Safo, and you can come when you are ready.
I just have to tell you, my dad loved showing me this picture, which is why I blew it up. Because he would show it to me and he would say, I used to be so good looking. You think you are good looking? You are nothing compared to how good looking I was. I could have Sophia Loren. We are very good looking family. He loved to talk about that. And for those of you who know me but don't know my dad, I never called my dad Dad or Bobby like we do in Albanian. I called him by his nickname, Himi. So if you hear that and you have no idea who we're talking about, wondering if you're in the wrong place, you're in the right place. So there were 3 things Himi always openly loved about me. One was my hands. He used to pick them up and say, Himi's hands. He weirdly loved the way I ate. The first time I ever caught him watching me eat, I was like, what? And he goes, you eat beautiful. Slow, nice, like English people. And the last thing he loved is when I imitated him. How I said that, Hannah? How I done that? So you're gonna hear me slipping into Himi voice. And before you start clutching your pearls, the reason I'm gonna do that is because he really loved it. So my dad had an accent you couldn't quite place. In the obituary I wrote, you know, he immigrated to Canada in 1961. What I didn't say was that while my uncle Nushi was sent out west, he went to Quebec, where he learned English from French Canadians, which explained everything. So it was never the King Edward Hotel, it was the King Edward Hotel. It was not those Canadian bums, which is what he liked to call the hockey players who weren't performing up to his standards. Those Canadian bums. It wasn't don't put the flowers on the table. It was don't put the floors on the table, which is really confusing the first time he said it. So in my house, flowers are not flowers, they're floors. He told me once, I could tell a million, I could be up here for an hour telling stories, but I'm gonna tell you one from when he first came to Canada. He was in some town just north of Montreal, and he didn't know very much English. He had a few words in his vocabulary, and the manager of the hotel gave him a job. All he knew how to say was like work, you know, yes, no, that was it. And he brought him down to the bathrooms, and he gave him some supplies, and he says, you clean the washroom. And my dad said, me clean washroom? No, me clean washroom, you clean washroom. And the manager was so offended, he fired him. He said, you fired. But my dad said, I didn't know what was fired. I came to work the next day. So I've lost other people that I love very deeply, but there's something about losing my dad that has been just uniquely difficult. In July of 2024, my dad was hospitalized, and we were told he had weeks to live, that he'd be in and out of hospital for the remainder of his life. But he lived a year longer than expected and never went back to the hospital. And that time was a gift. It gave us a chance to do things we had never, ever done before, to connect in ways that I never thought were even possible. I was no longer a child, and my dad was no longer the hard man of my youth that I remembered. He was an old man, tender, softened by time, by life, and by the limits of his body. I got to know him and understand him probably for the first time in my life. His obituary says he was an immigrant, but he didn't just immigrate, he escaped. And I'll let Safa tell you more about that. The hardships you live through have a way of shaping you. When you come to a country with no one, knowing no one, having almost no money, $8 in my pocket, barely any education, no language, you live in survival mode, analphabet, as my dad used to say. He was fighting to make a life to earn a living, to make something of himself. And that kind of fight made him seem a little bit like a drill sergeant to us sometimes. But he carried scars from his life in Montenegro. One of the deepest was his longing for an education. He spoke about it so passionately that sometimes he would be close to tears. So when I wanted piano lessons, he said, no. How that gonna help you? You gonna be pianist, be doctor, be lawyer, be engineer. He was so passionate about education that if he ever caught me doing something like watching TV or listening to the radio, he'd go hunting around the house to find an example of what I should be doing instead. And so you would see something like, read something, learn something. You see the Bina? Always reading. Meanwhile, the Bina was reading the Sears catalog. But it didn't matter. He just wanted to spur me on to be better. Himi was a fighter. He never quit. I remember helping him study for a real estate exam. It was like, he'd already had his real estate license, but he had to do some kind of new testing for something or other. And he asked me to help him. I couldn't understand it myself. And I thought, how is this guy with a graded education and terrible spelling gonna pass this test? I don't even understand this. So I said, you know what, Himi? Good luck. And he came back to me, however long, and he said, you remember you said to me, good luck? I done it. And he didn't let us quit either. My mom failed her driver's test. How many times, Mom?
3 times, 4 times.
3, 4 times. And she was crying, and she said, I'm not going back there. I don't want to go back there. And he said, you're gonna go back there. You're gonna fail 10 times. You're gonna go back 11 times till you pass. And she did. He was also a very proud Canadian. This country gave him his shot. So every time he voted, I got a speech telling me how important it was to vote, because where he came from, he didn't have that right. He had strong opinions about who should and shouldn't lead the country, and he made no bones about sharing them with me. But he always told me, it's nobody business who you voting for. Don't tell nobody. But he used to tell me. As a child, I didn't understand my dad or my family. All I knew is that we were weird. We were the loudest, busiest family on the street. We had a vegetable garden that was so big it kept half the block in produce all summer. We had 2 grapevines on our property. Our driveway was always full of cars and children, and we always had company. It felt like we were the Albanian version of the Beverly Hillbillies. I was desperately wanting to fit in. I wanted to be like everybody else. I wanted to have a normal name. I was told my whole life I was saying and spelling my name wrong. I wanted to have a normal lunch, just once, a white bread sandwich, just one time. I wanted normal birthday parties. But my birthday parties, my mom in Baflia would cook a 6-course meal from scratch. Beetsy's laughing because she remembers. And then my dad made us stand up and sing "O Canada." And I'm not joking. And all my friends were like, why do we have to sing? I'm like, I said, he just loves Canada. She's like, yeah, so does my dad, but we don't have to sing happy birthday at my parties. I'm like, but this is the legacy my father left me that I didn't appreciate as a child. But now I treasure like gold.
And he knows. He knows.
He taught me little things, like, don't complain about car repairs. It's just maintenance. Nothing to complain about. He taught me about big things. He gave me the gift of hospitality. When the house is full, it sings. He taught me to love my country. I always vote, and I always cry when I sing "O Canada." He taught me to love my culture, to be proud of it. He taught me to be unapologetically myself, which he was whenever I brought people to the house. He was always doing something bizarre, sunbathing in his underwear and dress socks. You all know, you've been there. And he would just look at you like, what? You're at my house. You don't like it? Go back the way you came. He was really sure of who he was, and he did not care what anyone else said. I have a lot to learn still about that. He taught me to care for people and to help people get a leg up when they need it. The number of people we adopted into our family who stayed with us, even lived with us because of my father and my mother. Because at the hands of this good woman and all of the food she made and all of the house that she cleaned and all the love she gave had an impact not just on them but on me. He taught me never to gossip. I once asked my parents why they hadn't told me some story that I'd found out about our own family members. How that gonna help you? You look at your business and not somebody else's business. That was it. He taught me to work hard, never give up. He taught me the power of the word no. Don't let people use you like a tool, Hannah. He taught me to roll with the punches. You cannot cut the life with the scissors, Hannah. You have to take it like it comes. There were two moments I'm just going to end with that I just want to share with you. Two final lessons my dad taught me in the last year of his life. My dad and I never had long conversations when I was growing up. He was busy. He was working. He was putting food on the table. And he wasn't like a super overly affectionate guy by nature. He wasn't taught that way. But I remember when I graduated from high school, I had 5 awards and 5 scholarships, and he came and shook my hand. That's the way he showed appreciation. But in the last year, we spent a lot of time talking. And I remember the first time we sat alone in his room for a couple of hours, and I was getting up to leave, and he grabbed my hand and he said, "Why we didn't talk like this before?" And I said, "We have right now." At the end of his life, my dad kissed me every single time he saw me. He told me he loved me every time I left. And on the last day of his life, I knew he was going to die. Even though the nurses and doctors were saying there's time, I knew there wasn't time. And I just became overwhelmed, and I sort of collapsed on his chest and started to cry, and he just stroked my hair. And he said, "My sweetheart, my sweetheart," in my arm. And I'm never going to forget that as long as I live. So the last 2 things he taught me were these. It's never too late to learn something. He was 91. And my dad always loved me. I just didn't always recognize the ways in which he tried to communicate it to me. So, I want to thank my dad for loving me. Sometimes imperfectly, but completely. I'm comforted in the knowledge that my dad is where he wants to be with his brothers. In the last year of his life, that's all he talked about. I want to go home to my brothers. He's with his nephews and his parents, his sister-in-law. He doesn't need a wheelchair. He's in no pain. And he's walking with them in the fields like he used to dream about. Thank you.
Thank you, Hannah. It's difficult to follow that. Allow me to introduce myself. My name is Carl. Most of you know me. If you don't, I'm Hannah's husband, Brahim's son-in-law. Tendurar, Antard families, welcome, honored family and guests. Thank you all for coming, especially those who've traveled from far. I'm going to keep this short and sweet. It's impossible to summarize a lifetime in a few paragraphs, in a few moments like this, but I will do my best. I began with a story from the late 70s when I was about 10 or 11 years old, and I had an English project to do. And I asked my dad, my late father, at the time, I said, Dad, what country in the world would be the least likely for Canada to have relations with? What is the most closed country, private country? And he thought about it and he said, probably Albania. And of course, those of you who know, under the Bogic communist regime, it was a very closed country, very protective. And so this was part of my project. And he was telling me that it was unlikely that Canada would have normal diplomatic relations with a country like that. However, due to God ordaining things, he brought my family and a wonderful Albanian family together. Our union was not the most orthodox, the most customary. I might as well have dropped in off the moon. I was a complete stranger the first time I met Himi, and yet in that moment, Brahim welcomed me and treated me with dignity and respect, despite being a complete stranger. Of course, over time, many conversations, dinners, and a lot of chess, our relationship developed into something wonderful. And of course, the arrival of our 3 daughters, his granddaughters, helped to form a relationship. So I am not the typical son-in-law. However, we shared common values like respect and dignity, hospitality, character, integrity, and tradition. And these shared values provided a framework for what was a wonderful relationship. And it's a reminder that good and unexpected things can happen. Things can work out, and eventually we grew very close. He liked me so much, he even let me paint the entire interior of his house with metal. Do you remember? So, or we also had an arrangement with chess. He would win at chess, and I would lose at chess. So that worked out as well. And I guess we both realized that despite our different origins, we actually had a lot in common. And we ended up enjoying each other's company immensely. We also shared the same sharp sense of humor. I also have many, many stories, more than what we have time for this morning, but I'll share a couple with you. One involves when we were expecting our first daughter, Liliana. Rebecca's mother, Lema, came over from Ulchin, and my grandmother was also there. And Himi sat in between them and acted as the interpreter. And so while they were sitting there talking, asked the formalities, how are you? Everything's fine. Leme said, so how are you doing? And my grandmother, who could be very witty and sharp at times, said, I'm okay, but I have a very bad knee. I have a lot of pain in my knee. And Leme said, oh, I'm so sorry to hear. And then my grandmother said, you can tell Leme, maybe she can take my bad knee and give me one of her good ones, like this. And when he tried to translate the story, he almost couldn't breathe. He was laughing so hard. Apparently it sounded really funny in Albanian. So he would say after that, he told that story many times years afterwards, and he said that, he goes, that is our custom of humor, those jokes, the Malsor way. And so he loved my grandmother very much. The other one was, I believe, one of the New York weddings. I think it was Matty's wedding. Of course, when all the family comes out of the hall and everyone's celebrating and dancing, a few of the men pulled out the guns, as is the custom, started firing the guns, and he came over and said, "Carl, you better hide. You are the tallest one here." So, a lot of fun stories, a lot of meaningful, deep, profound conversations as well. And I guess my message here is life doesn't always unfold as expected, and we all have our quirks and our ways. But I'm grateful that the core values I mentioned earlier that we both adhere to and shared in common made a wonderful relationship possible. And so at this time, I'm sad and I'm going to miss my friend, but I'm also filled with gratitude at having known this man. Thank you.
Thank you, Carl, for sharing your own experience. I can tell you something. Yes, you were kind of from a different part of the world. You are not an Albanian, and probably the first encounter was a little bit with hesitation. But later on, you probably discovered, as we did as well, that the differences between the nations are only superficial. It is really your core values, who you are as a person, that counts. And over time, you become one. And I can tell you, you could have been the son of the most important chief of Albanian clans. He would not have loved you more than he did. He was proud of you, he cherished you, and I have never, ever heard one bad word about you. So I just wanted to make sure that everybody understand that. Dear family, friends, we are here, gathered here today to say farewell to our beloved Brahim Boga, or as some of you know him as Bill Bogic. We are here to honor his life, who he was as a husband, as a father, as a sibling, as a cousin, and most importantly, as a human being who somehow touched many lives, hearts of many lives. While today our heart is full of sorrow, we are here really to also honor him and remember the good things he did. I will not go into, I'm sure all of you read the obituary that Hannah, his daughter, crafted so nicely and concisely captured his life and the essence of who he was. So I will not elaborate on that. She also shared a lot of, that was Brahim, precisely. And it's common to our Bogas. We are a little bit rough towards the edges. We're not an easy people, but we're fair. And I think that who knows us, fair, hospitable people, and loving people. So I will now like to say a few words, my own personal experience with Brahim, my journey of life, which was intertwined. And I'm old enough to remember him from very young age and share some experiences. Të nderuar pjesëtar të familjes, të nderuar miq, shok, dashamir. Këto 5 vjet e fundit për familjen Boga ka qenë mjaft vështira. Është para një viti që ishim bashkë në këtë vend, kur përcullëm djalin e Lanit, i cili shkoi në moshë mjaft të re. Pas tij edhe Kadria, djali i vetëm i Mohodulit, shkoi. Para tyne, Regjepje Binaku, 2 vëllezër tjerë të Brahimit, u ndanë. Dhe më thanë, a një gjenerat, që unë e quaj gjenerat të ardë, se nga ta kemi mësuar shumë, u larguan nga kjo botë. Prandaj, është shumë vështirë të japim lavdëmirën e fundit kësaj gjenerate. Ndoshta është edhe nga ajo se tash kam metu në më vjetrin në këtë familjen tonë Boga. Lejoni para se të flas diçka për jetimet e mia me Brahimin. T'ju falenderoj gjithëve të pranishëm për pjesëmarrjen tuaj. Pjesëmarrja juaj e nderon jo vetëm familjen e ngushtë të Brahimit, por të gjithë neve farefisin Boga. Ne jemi farefisi vogël, por kemi qenë gjithherë kompakt. Edhe thuajmë, ndoshta i kemi pas 4 përbëreza në mes njëri tjetër, por gjithherë kemi qenë si me qenë gemaxhës apo biraxhës. Të fokusohem në Brahimin, me cili tash disa vjet filloi ka një smundje që unë e quajsha smundje mekanike, sa i përket smundjeve klinike ishte shnosh mirë, truni funksiononte si me qenë i ri, dhe ma mirë thush, se ishte i plot, por e kufizoi aktivitetin e tij. Edhe kur bisedosha shumë shpesh me te, nga një herë, thote, po kam frikë, se jam mirë, jam shnosh, po mas jetoj shumë. Por mandej kur filloshim të ishim bised, harrote se ku është e kashtë, edhe krejt biseda merrte një drejtim tjetër. Ai kur nuk u dorëzua, gjithmonë e mathe veten, thu se s'kur gjas ka ndodhë. Vetëm nga njerë kur thote, po kom frikë se mos jetoj shumë. Tani të bash një eulogji për një dikën që po largohet, do më thonë të bashet rezume në fundit të jetës e tij, të mirat që ka sjellë në jetë, po dhe vështirësitë që ka sjellë në jetë. Brahimi lindi në Amull, por që nga mosha re, ai u tregua se është his destin, është i destinuar për një jetë tjetër, jo për atë jetën e fshatit. Se në fshat nuk ishte jeta aqe në rregull, ishte koha me njëherë mas luftës dytë botërore, kur vendi ishte liruar nga qina vjeç, i dënshtruar nga të tjerët, edhe thush, jo vetëm fshati, po gjithë ai rajon jetote në një vështirësi. Vërtet nuk ishte as shkolla. Gjenerata e Brahimit e Lanit ishin të partë që filluan të shkollohen nga ai vend. Mirë po, sado jo në standard ai shkollim, soli një televizim tjetër, se njerëzit tani dishin të lexojnë, dishin të shkruajnë, dishin të merren, Edhe Brahimi në shkollë fillore, mandej 8 vjeçaren, tregoi sukses. Unë kam ato notat e tia në një libër që ka shkruar një mësues nga ai vend. Sukses filloj mandej edhe me kërkua qysh në atë moshën e re me dal me kadrin shku në punë unë dikun në për Malzi apo dhe në Bosnjë kanë shku. Edhe më kujtohet kur I pruni në amull një farë garniture me gota me çapodiune, që se kisha pa për asnjëherë të parën herë. Më kujtohet kur shkoj në ushtri edhe kur u kthye prej ushtrisë gjatë fotografi. E kam parasysh I veshur si ushtar. Mas ju kthye prej ushtrisë, me një herë vendosi të largohet, të emigroj. Edhe u nis me një 2-3 shokën nga fshati aty për Itali. Atje në lumin Foça ku kalohet në Sloveni, afër Inxuni të ushtarët e ish Jugosllavisë, edhe I shtin burg për një muaj. Edhe ja urrun kryt, ja urrun flokët. E më kujtohet kur duel nga burgu, kishte ble një farë pantallona kadifje, zeza, me lëkur të bardhë këtu, edhe një xhemper. E kam pru një album aty është në fotografi, ajo pamje si ka pas atëherë. Nëse, mas do kohët me një herë, më duket ka qenë viti 61, kur me Lanin, edhe u çudita se Lani s'ka shku, fort shtu nuk është marrë me bujësie, me të gjana të fshatit. Shkun me shit bastan, me Mark Zjeton, me dllanë. Edhe shiten bastanin, edhe kishin emigruar. U hap lajmi që u larguan, emigruan Mark Zjetu e lan Boga, se ata kanë qenë mënë. Edhe u çuditëm ne, u çudit krejt vendi, përse këto dy ishin nga shtëpitë më të pasura në fshat. Edhe s'kishin atë nevojë thosh me u largua, por shkuan. Edhe sikur se tregoi edhe Hana, në atë kohë nuk e di se përse, po Brahimi shkoi në Montreal, Lani në Winnipeg, në Kanadë, vllavi atij Franit, vllavi Markut Franin në Australi, Marku këtu, edhe Marku atje në Montreal një herë. Kështu që pa një shkollë të lartë, pa ditë gjuhën, pa ditë, por vullnetin atë që thellë me bë diçka të re. Edhe ka arrit sparit me kriju një karrierë në kulinari, në turizëm, në hotelieri dhe mandej në real estate. S'kam çka t'i shtoj asaj që ka tha Hana për karakterin e tij, për të arritë diçka në jetë. I bëni të gjitha si kush tjetër. Është e vështirë ta pranosh se po të pajtohesh me situatë se sot do të japim lëm të mirën, por vdekja nuk është përfundimi. Është përfundimi I kësaj jete në këtë botë, por është një filles në botën tjetër të mshur. Shumë kombe ata e festojnë, sikur se festojnë lindjen, e festojnë edhe vdekjen. Përse? Është lindja e një jete tjetër, të pamshume, që s'ka mbarim. Okay. Atëherë duhet ta pranojmë edhe gjë tjetër se çdo gjë që kemi marrë në këtë tokë, në këtë planet e lam këtu. Edhe trupin ton, I cili është, si më thonë, tempulli I shpirtit ton, këtu është marrë, nga toka. Me ushqim, është rrit trupi, edhe prandaj duhet I kthehet tokës, se është I marrur nga ky vend. Vetmi gjë që s'është të ardhur nga ky vend është shpirti. E ai shkon I qiet. Atje sikur se tha, nuk I nevojitet më ajo. Karroca nuk I dhe më kur trupi pastroheshin nga të gjitha të këqijat e të mirat të kësaj bote. Edhe shkon në një botë tjetër që është e përjetshme, edhe ai që ka bën mirë në këtë botë, s'ka pse të frigohet, shkoj edhe në atë botë, se do të kalojnë shumë mirë. Më kujtohet, ishim në vitin 71. Ishim në Itali, kishim dalë edhe ne, familja jonë, për të emigruar në Amerikë. Edhe morëm vesh që Lani dhe Brahimi po vinë me anije në Napoli, se kishin marrë edhe një makinë me vete, edhe dola i takova Drulin, u takuam, edhe shkuam së bashku deri në barit Italisë, se mandej prej aty me vapor do delshin në Tivarën edhe për të shkuar në Namull, se Rexhepi atëherë me familje ishte ende në Namull, pa emigruar. Ku shkuam në bari, ne jemi kalu një natë, edhe mi bleu një palë pantoll, një palë tesha, cilat ishin gati se harova me thanë, kur ishte në Namull, sa i gjithëherë ka pas qef të veshe bukur. Me të vërtet, s'ka qenë i linu në i përfshat. Edhe i bleu një partesha në bojt mjaltet, jashtë zakurisht bukura. Edhe mirë po Brahimi, a ka edhe pak shkalavitan, shtu i bata kam dhe din, për në përbalt, të hes në përbalt, i bani me loq deri këtu. Si ta shëm kujtohet. Edhe në Napoli mi bleu edhe mu një palë tesha të tila, vile kam një fotografi me ato tesha kur erdhëm në Amerikë. Kam aqe shumë kujtime me te, sa që, ja, duhet një kohë shumë e gjatë për ta kujtuar, prandaj s'po shkoj ma gjatë, por edhe njëherë ju falenderoj për pjesëmarrjen tuaj, ja u ktheshim ndërimin tuaj në diçka në dasma, në gëzime, hare, e jo në ngushëllimet e tilla. Brahimi pas jetën e amshur, do të na mungoj të gjithëve shumë, por le t'i kujtojmë ata që na ka lënë, kujtimet e mira, disa anekdota që na bajnë të qeshemi, se edhe ai e ka pas atë qeshëm në ti, infectious e kam qyet unë, edhe ka qenë njëri që kur e ka dasht të jemi zbashku, sidomos në familje kur ishim kështu në mbledhje. Edhe ka qenë njëri që nuk e ka dasht ta dominojnë, se janë disa që duan të dominojnë bisedën, dominojnë gjitha, vetëm ta hapin bisedën, të marrin edhe gjithkusht ta njehin veten mirë. Prandaj kemi çka të marrim me veten nga ai mjaft, kujtimet e tija, ta qeshurin e tij, fjalët e tija, dhe s'do të harrojmë, po ta përcjellim këtë legacy që na ka lënë edhe disa vjet. Ju falemnderit.
Thanks, Staffy, so much. And for the Canadians out there will be a test later. I just wanted to read something from my cousin Jamil's son, who wrote something for today that couldn't be here. Jamil actually just very briefly said, that he'll never forget my dad, because when he came to Canada, he also came with nothing. He stayed at our house, and he said, your father was like a father to me, and I'll never forget him. Bessart says, Himi was an amazing man. He was always so close with my family that I saw him like an uncle. I always felt at home with him, with Himi. Every single time I visited, he always wanted to know how I was doing, if I was focused on school and trying to improve myself. He told me to never lose sight on my goals. The hardest moment of my life was when I lost my grandfather, and Himi was there for me and my parents. He loved us unconditionally. I was blessed to have him in my life. And when it comes to making a name for yourself and setting your family up for success, Himi was the man. True hard work and a real businessman. I will never forget the moments I shared with him and everything he wished for me to become and how much he believed in me. I love you, Himi. I'll miss you. Besi. Amir wanted to say a few words too.
Hello, my name's Amir. I'm the nephew of Brahim Boga, aka Bill Bogic, aka Uncle Himi, or Aja Himi. I came to this country when I was 3 years old. My father passed away in Montenegro, and the first memory of this country that I have was coming to Uncle Himi's house with Rebecca and them just showing me so much love and taking care of me and my family when we first came here and setting us up for a great life in Canada. I'll never forget everything you guys showed me during that time of need and just through my whole life. You've always been there for me. I remember a time in British Columbia when I was in a bad way, and I got in a lot of trouble, and I ended up getting in a fight that caused me a lot of damage. Pekka and Himi, they flew me from British Columbia to their house again and took care of me. I'll never forget that to my dying days, and I love you guys. Also, I want to mention some good things about Himi. Himi was the man. He used to make me laugh so much when I was a little kid, and he taught me a lot of core values. One, like Juana was saying, to be a proud Albanian, which I am. Another thing is to be a proud Canadian, which I very much am. Another thing is respect and love, and to show up for the people that show up to you, for you. And you know what? I'll never forget that. I just want to say that till my dying days, this guy will always have a place in my heart because he taught me to be a man. For that, I'm grateful. And one last thing, I just want to mention a little story about Himi. He also, when I was a little kid, he used to love hockey and wrestling. And he installed those things in me, and to this day, I still love them. And I remember when I was a little kid, we would be watching hockey, and like if the goalie or somebody would make a mistake, I remember Grant Fuhrer, he really sucked at that one time. And I remember he was saying, "This bum Grant Fuhrer, I beat him with 2x4. Oh my goodness. It's for me. Yeah. He was just the life of the party. You know, I remember as being a little kid showing up to these parties that the house would sing, and they were some of the most fondest, you know, safe places in my memories in my life. And yeah, I'm just so super grateful for you, and I love you, Pekka. Thank you for having me here today. Thanks, guys.
Thank you so much for sharing. It is great to hear those stories and to get to know Brahim a little bit better, even now. And I know many of you who knew him, because he's such a character, have many stories to tell. And I just want to encourage you to share those stories, particularly at the reception afterwards and in the days to come. Just wanted to give a few words of encouragement of my own. When Hannah and I were talking about the service, she told me that there's an Albanian saying that to die in your 90s surrounded by family is a good death. And it's such a blessing to know that Brahim had a good death. And it got me thinking about even my end. We have so much to be thankful for and to celebrate in Brahim's long life and the legacy that he leaves behind. I have this print of a painting of the prophet Daniel in the lion's den, sitting on the wall of my office. I keep it there to remind me that I want to end well in my life. Daniel was exiled to Babylon as a young man, and he trained to serve King Nebuchadnezzar as one of his wise men. But in the painting and in the story, Daniel is an old man when he was thrown to the lions. And by my math, he's at least in his 80s. And he's in the lion's den because he broke the king's edict and continued to pray to the one true God daily. In the painting, the old man Daniel has his back to the lions, and he's looking up toward a high window with a rather unconcerned look on his face. In fact, the lions look more concerned than Daniel does. And I keep this painting, one, because I like it. It's a beautiful painting. But mostly because it reminds me of the person that I want to be at the end of my life. I want to end well. I want to be like the prophet Daniel. I want to serve well, as Daniel served many kings in Babylon for his whole life. I want to remain faithful to the one true God, as Daniel was. And I want to be radical enough that someone in power wants to throw me to the lions when I'm in my 80s. So as we come together to remember someone who has experienced a good death, I want to encourage you to reflect on how you want to be in the end. Ending well relies on making decisions now and forming habits now that enable us to have the character that we want to have when that time comes. While we celebrate Brahim's life and legacy, any death of someone that we love is difficult. We grieve and we mourn. We feel like we can't function, feel like our brains have turned off and our bodies don't function as they should. And even as we are thankful for Brahim's life, sometimes we have moments of sudden grief that debilitates us. And those of you who are closer, you are grieving the loss of Brahim. And you may be grieving other losses as well. The conversations that you wanted but did not have, the things and experiences that you wanted to share or have shared with you and that never happened. And that's true grief as well. And we need to learn to experience that grief and to live with it for a while. It's written that God is close to the brokenhearted. He rescues those whose spirits are crushed. That writing gives me so much hope. Hope that God is close when I'm brokenhearted, and that he will rescue me when my spirit is crushed. But it's also an encouragement for those of us who are trying to be godly people, people who are like God, that we too should stay close to the brokenhearted. We too should rescue those whose spirits are crushed. And many of us here are here because we want to support the family. We want to be close to the brokenhearted. And I want to invite you to ask that question. How can we show Rebecca and Hannah and Carl, Liliana, Clara Eden and Ella and Danny that they are loved and that they're not alone? In my life, food always works, as well as an ear that listens. I think the best way to show love to someone is to listen, even if they're not talking. Someone to just be present and quiet with the one we love. Let's pray. This night and every night seems infinite with questions and sleep as elusive as answers. Pain and longing are always present, dulled by only a little by the distractions of the day. We are weary, we are angry, we're confused. Circle us, God. Keep despair and disillusion without. Bring a glimmer of hope within. Circle us, God. Keep nightmare without. Bring moments of rest within. Circle us, God. Keep bitterness without. Bring an occasional sense of your presence within. This is the blessing. As you leave this place, may the living God go with you. May he go behind you to encourage you, beside you to befriend you, above you to watch over you, beneath you to lift you from your sorrows. Within you to give you the gifts of faith, hope, and love. And always before you to show you the way. Amen. I want to invite all of you. There's a reception that'll be happening downstairs immediately after the service. It's going to be followed at 1:30 by a procession to the cemetery for anyone who would like to attend the interment there. And there will be a recessional here just after the reception at that time. Thank you so much.
Just some last words. We've had a lot of talk about food, how much my dad loved to host. And the caterer just showed up, so I thank God for that. But I just want to invite any of you who are able to stay, to please stay, because this is my dad's last meal that he's offering to all of you. And I know it would be his honor and ours for you to be our guests. So thank you all for coming.
Ladies and gentlemen, would you please stand if you're able? We'll follow the family from the chapel.